Indeed, France is reeling from a string of attacks. And just to put this in perspective, we're now joined by way of phone by Andrew Franklin, who is a security expert. Andrew, what can we say about this? Why is France, on the spotlight? There have been a string of terrorist attacks in the country, from early last year, really.
Well, good morning. France is a target because of its very large-scale military interventions against mainly Al-Qaeda in the Sahel region of Africa. It's military interventions in places like Mali to ensure that Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb was unable to seize Bamako, and its very overt security efforts to dislodge Gaddafi. Its activities in places like Syria have made it a very high target. France also has a very large resident population of Arabs, of Muslims, from its former colonial possessions in North Africa, who some of whom have become radicalized, some of whom are, of course, petty criminals, and who are looking to make names for themselves.
Is there anything pointing to the extent of preparedness of France, really, security-wise?
Well, in fact, this terrorist outrage demonstrates an obvious gap and a lapse in the security measures that were taken to safeguard large public gatherings on Bastille Day.
Mm-hmm. I'm just speaking about it from a global perspective because, of course, terrorism is a global, menace. And what does this mean with regard to that conversation, with regard to combating terror, not just in France, but across the globe?
Well, in fact, what it says is we're not really learning from what goes on elsewhere in other places. The use of private cars to kill security force personnel or civilians is not unusual. We saw this in October and November of 2014 in Israel, where Palestinians were driving cars into roadblocks to kill border guards, were driving their cars into people waiting at metro or bus stops, killing civilians. It's just the scope of this Paris outrage that is so horrifying and terrific. But, of course, the terrorist here picked his target, and knowing full well that there would be hundreds of thousands of people in a very constricted area. And the question then becomes, why was an 18-wheel lorry, tractor-trailer in effect, allowed to get onto the promenade? It is not unusual to have long-haul lorries or transport taking place on public holidays, overnight, of course, but certainly not through the heart of a major resort city on the Mediterranean.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I mean, let me put it this way. You would not find this sort of thing happening any longer on New Year's Eve in Times Square in New York City.
So this is a state of preparedness for France, is that what you're saying?
This is a state of preparedness, the ability to mitigate or prevent an attack of this sort on a high-value target, a high-visibility target that you might have expectations that someone would want to do something to disrupt the celebrations and make a big splash, which is what has happened, of course.
And of course, this is just coming days after, the Euro 2016 Championship. So there is that expectation that there was a level of extensive security in place.
You're absolutely correct. There was a very high level of security in place that probably prevented any attacks on the venues for the UEFA competition. The problem is the security forces are human beings too, and you cannot stay on high alert forever. I think the French now have to, of course, reevaluate again their border controls, their border security, and also their information and intelligence sharing across borders and amongst their own security forces. Not because you can prevent every attack, but because you can mitigate or eliminate the possibilities or that such an attack can take place. You can reduce the frequency of such attacks through proactive measures.
All right.